I want to start out here by sharing a story with you. Some years ago, I was on the island of Maui, and I was giving a talk. And I was talking about the truth, and I was more specifically talking about how the truth really manifests in the context of life after awakening. And what I was saying was, what would it be like if we didn't avoid anything we knew to be true? What if we came out of hiding in all areas of our life? What if we stopped avoiding ourselves completely? Because that literally is the awakened life. And so I was talking along these lines, and the evening went by, and there was questions, and then the evening ended, and then the next day there was another meeting. And someone raised their hand, a gentleman, an older gentleman in his midlife, 50s or 60s, raised his hand, and he said something really beautiful. He says, I was listening to you talk last night about truthfulness and really being honest and a willingness to really face oneself as they are and not hide in some past realization. And he said, somehow it penetrated, and I went home. Me and my wife went home. His wife had also come to the meetings with me. And he talked about them going home. And he said, we have been on the edge of divorce for quite some time now. And we went home after we heard you talk, and we just sat down, and we started to tell each other the truth. We started to tell each other what was true for ourselves. And he said it wasn't like when we used to tell each other the truth, which would be more like trying to convince each other of the truth or trying to pretend that one of us is right and one of us is wrong. He said this was telling the truth, which is just very simple. It was almost like confessing exactly what we'd been experiencing, what we'd been experiencing for a long time, confessing the fact that we felt separate from each other and distant from each other, and confessing some of the secrets they had kept from each other, which actually were causing them to feel separate and isolated from each other. And he said, we actually just sat there and told each other the truth. He would tell truth, and then he would allow his wife to tell truth, and then he would tell truth and allow her to tell truth. And he said, it wasn't that we were working anything out or trying to come to conclusions. We simply were coming out of hiding. And he said, we literally talked from 11 o'clock at night till 3 o'clock in the morning, which he also said was the reason that he was kind of blurry-eyed and tired at the moment. But he relayed to me that he said it was the most extraordinary evening of his entire life. Just that evening of telling truth, not asserting truth, but not denying truth. Just simply telling truth in a very sincere way, coming completely out of hiding. And I've found over the years of working with people, even people that have had very deep and profound awakenings, that in many people, most people, there's really a fear in them from really being truthful, really being honest, not only with others, but with themselves. And of course, the core of this fear of being truthful and honest and real as a human being is that intuitively, and in most people unconsciously, we all know that if we're actually totally truthful and totally sincere and honest, that at that moment, we can't control anybody. We can't control somebody we've been truthful with. We can't control somebody we've told what seems to be true to. We can only control people if we tell half-truths, if we shade what's true. But if we tell the total truth, then our inside is on the outside. There's nothing hidden inside. For most human beings, to have their inside exposed on the outside brings up incredible fear. Most people walk around feeling like, my God, if anybody could look inside of me, if anybody could see what was happening inside of me, what I thought inside of me, what my fears were, and also my doubts were, and also what my truths were, what I really perceive. Most people are terrified that if somebody could do that, they would just feel horrified. So most people are actually protecting themselves they're holding a lot of things in. They're not actually living really honest and truthful and sincere lives. Because if they were to do so, they would have no control. Of course, they don't have control anyway, but they would have no illusion of control. And so this man and this woman, they both told me about how extraordinary this evening was. And they said, to be quite honest, we don't know if we'll stay together or not stay together. Of course, it's been many years now, and they are still together, but at the time they didn't know if they would be together. But they even had the honesty to say that. They had the honesty to know that they had just made a beginning by telling each other the truth, by being honest, by being real. Most people don't get out of childhood, much less their adolescence, without many times and having many experiences of telling truth and being wounded for telling truth, or having someone say, you can't say that, or you shouldn't say that, or that wasn't appropriate, the situation wasn't appropriate. So most of us human beings have a very deep underlying conditioning that says to be who we are is not okay. That there are times to be truthful and honest, and there are times not to be truthful and honest. Most human beings actually have an imprinting, not only in their minds, but in their bodies and in their emotions, that if they're real, if they're honest, something bad is going to happen. Somebody's not going to like it. And they won't be able to control their environment if they tell the truth. But this is an aspect of awakening. It may not seem like it because it's very human and it's very practical. It's not transcendent. It's not about pure consciousness. But it is about how pure consciousness manifests as a human being in an undivided way. And this is part of the process. The phase of awakening is that what we realize must be able to be manifest. And we also have to come to grips and start to notice the very forces within us that keep us from manifesting it. Now, one of the dangers when I talk about telling the truth to oneself and others is inevitably, almost every time I've given a talk like this in public, at some later point in time, maybe the next day or the next week, someone will come up to me and said, Adya, that talk you gave on truthfulness and honesty and all that? And I'll go, yeah, I remember the talk. And they'll say, well, somebody came up into the parking lot afterwards and decided that they needed to tell me all the rotten things they thought about me in the name of honesty. And I just kind of shake my head and go, oh my God, this is, I hesitate to even give talks on this because it's so easy to misunderstand. Truth is a very high standard. It's not a plaything. To tell what's true within ourselves isn't to tell what we think. It's not to tell our opinion. It's not to dump our the garbage can of our mind onto somebody else. This is what I think about you. This is what I feel about you. This is my judgment about you. None of that's true. That's illusion. That's distortion. That's one's own garbage. It's one's own problem. It's one's projection. What is truth? Truth isn't to unload our opinions onto someone. That's not truth. Truth isn't to tell our beliefs about things. That's not truth. Those are ways that we actually hide from truth. Truth is much more intimate than that. Whenever we tell the truth, it has much more of the sense of a confession. I don't mean a confession of something bad or wrong, but I mean the sense where we come completely out of hiding. Truth is a simple thing. To speak the truth is to speak from a sense of total and absolute unprotectedness. And to do that with any consistency, We have to not only have met every place in ourselves that is afraid of doing that, we have to see what is the belief structure I have that tells me I can't do that. Because those belief structures are by their very nature based in unreality. But just to know that's not enough. You actually have to see it, really perceive exactly what one believes. What are the exact belief structures that cause you to go into duality, that cause you to go into conflict and hiding?